Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer, Christian, putting on my science cap today. Saw an article recently on the study of dinosaur tracks in Australia. Some scientists are saying they represent dinosaurs running from a bigger dinosaur. And some say it's a sign of a catastrophic event. Okay, before we start, like and comment on my videos and subscribe to my channel to support this channel to keep these discussions going. Thank you. Okay, it's in Australia, the National Heritage Places Dinosaur Stampede National Monument. That's a pretty nifty title. According to them, 95 million years ago in what is now the heart of Queensland, about 180 small dinosaurs fled across a mud flat with a huge stalking predator after them. Kind of reminds you of the latest movie series, and does it not? Jurassic Park. Well, anyway, the monument houses the world's only known site of a dinosaur stampede, where numerous dinosaurs are recorded running in a single direction. Probably because there's other tracks that show a little more randomness, whatever that means and why it means. Basically, you have smaller feet, supposedly, that show, and then there's a bigger footprints behind it, and that's the assumption you're making. This was first discovered in the 60s by a fellow that was looking for opals in the area. And then further study in 1971 pretty much confirmed that these were dinosaur footprints rather than just birds. It's a rare snapshot of a few seconds of activity that occurred at that time. The footprints, well, you remember those real little dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, if you will. And that's kind of what the small ones are saying would be like. Kind of like from chicken-sized to emu-sized dinosaurs that were pursued by a dinosaur that's, say, 10 meters, 30 feet long, with 50 centimeter feet pursuing them. They say not long after the incident and before the mud had time to dry, the water level rose thanks to a fortuitous flood event. Wow, does that bring up some questions? Then, of course, with the flood event, thousands of years of rich river plain silted it over, covered it up. Well, that's what they say. Now, it's a dry landscape now. It's a landscape dotted across gullies and steep escarpments, and with the preserved record of the stampede. The setting also reveals information about the nature and extent of the local Cretaceous environment, scientists said. The site today is part of a Lake Quarry Conservation Park, and a permanent shelter has been erected to protect these fossils. And it's interesting. I learned a new word, ichnology, and it's the study of evidence of fossils. It's not actually fossils, but ichnology would be like these tracks or some kind of burrow or something you'd find fossilized that represented that there had been an animal there of some kind. Pretty interesting. The National Heritage listing of the Dinosaur Stampede National Monument ensures remarkable insight into the movement, size, shape of these fascinating creatures. It's a protected and managed place for future generations, if you will. But as I've learned in all the study of fossils of the past, there's always an argument of some kind now. Surprised by that, huh? In other words, what really happened, because nobody observed it, nobody will observe it, as there are no dinosaurs. But there we are. We've got these fossilized dinosaur footprints in a layer of rock that once had to have been mud, and were quickly covered. So that gives us, it has a suggestion. This was not over a long period of time. It couldn't have been the tracks would survive. They'd easily have washed away. They would have dried up and blown away, whatever that would be at the time. But, such things in the fossil record show something that happened over a long period of time by some, and some show that think it's a catastrophic event. Because it would have to be catastrophic to freeze those tracks. It would have to be, they mentioned, a flood, very fast, but a flood would also have to carry enough sediment to bury those tracks so they would disappear. So that brings up some argument about where brings up some argument about catastrophic events of the past. Now, they're thinking that this is the researchers at the dinosaur site are thinking it's a stampeding group simply running from this bigger dinosaur, capturing a moment of predation, if you will, historically. But the tracks are weathered and faded significantly, but the information remains. They are still there. But whatever buried them so quickly is really the question that can answer a lot of questions about paleontology. Researchers describe more evidence, including variations in the tracks, sandstone grain wear, cross-bedding patterns. Such clues are as fossilized tree branch scrape marks. Best fits a scenario whereby dinosaurs were alternatively floating, partly floating, or wading in a fast-moving, very broad, high-energy flow event that featured rapidly fluctuating water depths. Now that type of research and explanation does go back to the flood part. So what are we seeing? Animals being pursued by a bigger dinosaur in a predation event? Or are we seeing animals running away from rising water like a flood? It could be a tsunami. We're quite familiar with what tsunamis can do now from recent earthquakes. A tsunami could carry an enormous amount of material in it. And if these animals were already experiencing some flood process from somewhere that was pushing them in a direction, you could get any group of animals going in one way. Now, from what I understand in this representation and this fossil record, there's at least 3 different animals involved in a large number moving in one direction. Now, it may look like a bigger one chasing them, but it very well could be just this group running away from this flood. And that becomes a representation of a cataclysmic event or a flood event. And results described, let me talk about this some more, as to how the turkey-sized 3-toed dinosaurs swam, sometimes with their claws barely scraping the sand. When wading in shallow water, their feet sunk deeply into the sand that quickly hardened. And the new reason for the long stride length is that the fast-moving water current carried along the dinosaurs. Now that was something in the study I think I missed, is this part about this long stride. Could easily be understood from their floating just enough, but still got enough to contact the ground. That's kind of interesting. But there's much to this study on what they call sedimentologic and ichnological observations are consistent with interpretations of the area being a fluvial-dominated floodplain under variable subaqueous conditions. There's some fancy words for you. Anyway, where we're getting here is about what's cataclysmic, what happened, because the common popular belief that the dinosaurs were wiped out by a meteor strike on the Earth, and that strike burned up the Earth and destroyed the dinosaurs. To me, there's a number of difficulties with that. There is some evidence, but to destroy everything worldwide from this asteroid strike, and then for everything to be re-evolved in such a short period of time, in deep time, is hard for me to accept, and for others, where these fossils all over show a moment in time like a photograph. Some places, like in North Dakota, there's a huge mix of fossils, different ages, different sizes, different species, all in one place, like a huge catastrophic event happened all of a sudden. Now, the asteroid event could be that, but I think the water event is better because they had to be a flood big enough to knock them down or to cover tracks instantly, and with enough deposition of material to seal them so that they couldn't decay, they couldn't be eaten by other animals. It was nearly instantaneous, so it shows a huge cataclysmic event in our Earth's history. Something happened. Now, I as a Christian look at this as the great flood of Genesis, and it was a huge catastrophic event worldwide beyond our comprehension. Nobody's ever seen anything like that, and hopefully nobody ever will. But the evidence, the more they look around, I see the evidence is pointing to that worldwide flood. So there you are. Like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel to support it. That'd be great. We can continue this argument and discussion of history and paleontology and fossils. What do they show? It's interesting. It's fun. May not disagree with me at all, and there's some that do. But let's have the discussion. It's a terrific opportunity. So go out there, find a fossil, make it a great day.